And Ed, you have a rather interesting topic to tell us about this morning.
Well, I'm just here to give an update and a report on the project at the high school to remove and save the MIlton Welt Mural that has been welcoming students in the entry foyer ever since the high school was open in 1964. It's been there for 50 years, and as we're nearing to the point where the old high school will be demolished with the completion of the new high school, there's been an effort mounted to raise funds to see if we can get the mural removed, and then if that happens, then we'll start raising funds to do a preservation. And there's a lot of work that would have to be done to it to be able to get it in a condition where it could then be installed someplace else in town. So it'll be a lasting piece of artwork and piece of culture of our town.
Now, this is quite a trick, I presume, to be able to remove this, because it's actually part of the wall, is it not? Or?
Well, it's interesting. That part of the building, it's between the entry hall and the auditorium, and it's a concrete block wall. And when it came up to put a mural on it, what they did is over the top of the concrete block, they nailed some furring strips, wood strapping that you use commonly in building, and then over that they stretched and nailed what they call expanded metal lath, which they use for plastering, and put a coat of mortar onto the lath, and then finished it with a couple of coats of a finished plaster to create a nice surface for Milton to paint on. So what we've discovered in sort of feeling around the edges is that there is space between this metal mortar plaster matrix and the concrete wall that's provided by having put that wood furring, and that's the area where we'll go through to break it away from the concrete wall. We're going to be doing in the next week or two a few exploratory cuts on the side of the mural and on the bottom to get a much more precise handle on understanding what that is, so then we can plan out how to, well, we have a plan, but make sure that there isn't any impediment that we see to having that work forward, and it'll involve on working behind and cutting that loose, as that's going across from one side to the other, we'll start supporting it separately from the wall, and then that'll have to, the mural will have to be lowered down onto a trailer, which we'll bring into the entry hall. It will probably take one of the large boat trailers that this time of year are around Harwich without any boats on it, because they're all in the water, and modify that to take it. And then we've been in conversations with the demolition contractor, and at the appropriate time he'll open up one of the doorways so we can maneuver it out of it. It's a lot of moving parts. We're involving the contractor who's currently involved in putting up the Kroll barn. He's been consulting with us. He's done some mural removals from buildings up in New Hampshire as part of his work career. And some other local construction workers we'll be bringing on when we actually do it. And hopefully it's all going to be successful.
Is there any question about that?
Well, you know, this is not an everyday activity in everybody's sort of bag of construction tricks. So there is some issues. You know, if we believe that there is a clean break between the mural and the concrete wall. The one problem that we'll have is if we run into areas where the mortar, as they put it, has adhered to the concrete block. That's going to present a problem, and we don't know. But we won't really know that until we start doing it. Some people have suggested that, well, why don't you just cut the whole thing, the block wall out? Well, the problem with it is it turns out that the concrete block wall is a supporting wall. It's holding up the cupola and the ceiling. So that would have to be, without doing a huge cost of engineering and supporting that, to do it now, it would have to be done right as they're doing a demolition, and that's just too dicey to try. So we're going to try and do it this way. In the off chance that we're not successful, and once we'll get it off the wall and hopefully in a good shape. But before we move it out of the building, we'll do some exploration to make sure that the surface of it is sound to be able to do the restoration process. But in the off chance that it's not possible, which Ed Lilly, a photographer down in Harwich, who's been a professional photographer in our community, has created a very high density digital image recording of it, and the sort of fallback position will be to create a full-scale photographic depiction of it.
And I know that the technology today, you can do that, so that is a good backup.
And as to once it's all off the wall and restored and mounted, there are several sites around town we're looking at to have as an installation. I know there is some interest in having, because MIlton did it for the students of Harwich, to have it or a copy of it down at the elementary school. So all Harwich students have a good chance to have it as part of their school day. And maybe, but in looking at down there isn't really a good location to put it in full size. So it might be through a slightly reduced photographic reproduction that it'll go into the elementary school as.
Wow, okay. Now this is an ongoing fundraising effort for this. How would people contribute if they wanted to?
We're operating under the auspices of FODA, which is the Friends of the Arts committee at the high school. It's a parent fundraising committee. They're a tax-exempt charitable organization, and they raise funds for art and cultural activities at the high school, which this, I think, certainly qualifies, and they've taken us under their wing. So what we asked is if somebody wanted to donate, they could send a donation to the high school, address it to FODA /MIlton Welt Project. We're also on Saturday from 10 to 12 going to have an open house in the foyer at the high school, because right now, for many years, the mural has been under protective glass covering, and to protect it, and that glass was a double pane laminated tempered safety glass, which did a good job of protecting it, but it also darkened the image, because you get, when light goes through a matrix like that, it gets a green tint, and it really significantly altered the look of it. And so with it down, people can get a chance to look at the mural with its true vibrant colors that MIlton put on. And it's so much brighter. It's, I think, a remarkable thing for people to see. And members of the committee will be there. Ed Lilly has done some prints that we're selling as part of the fundraising effort. They'll be available for purchase. and information on where to send a donation would be available.
Now, I believe some of those prints were sold at the Last Dance last Saturday night, and boy, a lot of them were sold, so that was a good thing. And it gives people a chance to actually have a reproduction of this, which is really nice. It really is.
And a lot of people have asked, how much you need to do this project. We've raised in actual cash in hand, probably at this point, 13 or 14,000. We have another 10,000 that's been set aside in pledges for it. And we have additional funds coming in, like from. We haven't actually banked the money from that was raised at the Last Dance procedure. Right. But we have money coming in. So right now, looking at the costs we're anticipating on the attempt to do the removal, we're probably pretty close to being covered, if not having a little bit over. But once that happens, and we feel that step's been successful, then the next two steps, which are the restoration, the remounting, and the installation in another location, we're looking at probably somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000.
Wow! Yeah.
That's going to be a very meticulous, time-consuming process that has to go through to preserve that image. And but we'll push on with that fundraising effort once I think some people might look at this project and been holding off to see if we can get it off the wall successfully before.
Right. Well, that's true.
It's sort of when I first got involved, I sort of said, "How are you going to do that?" You know? And that's, I think, a question a lot of people have. Well, they've looked into it, and it is possible.
Wow.
And it's whether or not we're successful to the extent that we have a good enough. The painted surface is in sound enough shape to be able to then warrant doing the full restoration effort.
Do you feel more confident than you did when you first started?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I
good.
do. You know, having reached the sort of financial goal is one part of it. But also working with the contractor and some other people to sort of understand the engineering and the construction process. I feel reasonable.
Well, having those furring strips in there, that makes a big difference.
It does.
If it had been bonded directly onto
there's no way. I don't think
the concrete block wall. I don't exactly know
No,
how you'd ever do it. Up in New Hampshire, I forget which university. There was a very famous mural that was done up there as part of their library, and it was also on a concrete block wall, and they were completely redoing the library, but they literally cut the section of block wall out, re-supported it, moved it out of the wall, ran it on a specially constructed overhead rail system.
Unbelievable.
To the new part of the position, and cut a slot in the slab floor to lower it down to its new installation. I mean, they spent